Welcome to my cockpit. I'm your host and narrator, Captain Tobias Steele. Relax with me as I take you on a sensual and exciting voyage across the galaxy. Unleash your science fiction fantasies with these action-packed tales featuring mature and provocative adventures. Viewer discretion is advised. A strange thing happened at the peace talks. Story 3. That evening, Commando Michael Kincaid arrived at the sacred Grand Bathing Hall, deep within the subterranean city of the Xendraxian capital. The chamber was vast, hewn from ancient rock, the ceilings towering overhead with bioluminescent veins running through the walls, casting a faint indigo glow over the steaming pools. The air was thick with humidity, and the faint metallic scent of Xendraxian skin mingled with minerals from the thermal waters. Inside the largest central pool chamber, Warlord Kudak lounged. 12 foot and over 600 pounds, his enormous frame was partially submerged as his 3 high admirals sat around him, their hulking masses relaxed in the heated waters. On a separate elevated platform, the Galactic Alliance Grand Speaker observed and took notes for the historical record, a witness to a new kind of diplomacy in the making. Kincaid entered the large chamber. The room quieted as all eyes settled on him. Remembering his diplomatic training, he officially and properly greeted each representative. Warlord Kudak lifted his head, his ridged brow heavy with contemplation, as Kincaid stood before him, clad in his Darkstar Commando uniform, the plated armor clinging to his genetically enhanced frame, muscles evident even through the suit. Kincaid was a towering figure at 8 feet tall, sculpted through decades of biological augmentation, extreme gravity training, and battlefield conditioning. Warlord Kudak rumbled, his deep voice echoing and carrying through the steamy air. He said, "I have spoken to my admirals about the satisfaction I experienced when you removed the creatures from my plates." His heavy lids lowered slightly, in what could only be a look of indulgence. They too have suffered long with these irritants. Kincaid remained silent for a moment before inhaling sharply. Then, with a deliberate and unflinching motion, he reached for the bolt fastener clasps under the chest plate of his suit. It hissed, the emitting gas mixing with the steam in the air. With slow precision, he peeled away his commando armor. The Xendraxians watched him intently as they blew thick plumes of smoke from their pipes. Kincaid continued with unfastening the heavy plates until he was left standing in only his tight compression briefs. The heat of the bathhouse kissed Kincaid's thick skin. His body was a masterpiece of engineering and endurance, thick cords of muscle shifting in the ambient glow of the cavern's luminescent walls. He bore the marks of past battles, pale scars cut across his chest and arms, each telling the story of a warrior. Finally, with a smirk and a firm tug, he shed the last of his briefs, his towering frame stepping into the pool completely bare, the water parting around his massive thighs as he waded toward Warlord Kudak. The warlord stirred. The water cascaded in waterfalls from his immense body as he lifted himself onto a large, smooth stone ledge, exposing his bare body entirely. His flesh was sturdy and powerful, his guts solid with strength, his limbs monstrous in size. His bony ridges glistened, and below them, the powerful curvature of his muscular haunches flexed as he repositioned himself, laying forward, his overlapping ridge plates rising and lowing slightly. Kincaid had fought in fierce battles, traversed dangerous gas nebulas, and survived vacuum exposure. This was merely a different kind of operation. Kincaid began his assigned mission. He looked at the tools they laid on an adjacent table beside him. Gloves, long-handled scrapers, brushes, and a hose connected to a mineral cleansing solution. With gloved hands, Kincaid pried open the first ridge plate, exposing the slick, humid crevice underneath. The moment Kincaid began to scrape underneath, Warlord Kudak exhaled deeply, a low, resonant hum vibrating through his massive chest. Kincaid went to work. He dragged the scraper along the fleshy ridges, clearing away the embedded split eggs, crushing any remaining parasites, their bodies popping between his fingers as he worked. His hands moved methodically, alternating between the abrasive brush, the thick hose, and his own dexterous grip, ensuring every inch of Warlord Kudak's ridges was cleansed. Kudak grunted, shifting his weight, his burly muscles tensing under the attention. The deep, satisfied hum that had started at the base of his throat grew louder. His breath became heavier. As Kincaid began to attack the underside of the next larger plate, he realized he needed a better angle to really deep clean. Once Kincaid grabbed the comb rake-like instrument, he realized he had no choice but to straddle the back of Warlord Kudak. The commando swung his muscular leg over the warlord, positioning himself, once secure. Kincaid methodically used the tool to forcefully comb away the eggs from the coarse, wild boar-like tufts of hair between Kudak's ridge plates. Thoroughly cleaning under the plates, Kincaid then used the coarse wire-like brush to clean the rough outside. Apparently, Xeondraxian's bony plate ridges, while having tough exteriors, also have sensitive nerve endings. Warlord Kudak claws curled with pleasure as the brush stroked across his ridges. As Kincaid finished the final plate ridge, he didn't stop. Instead, he moved lower, using the coarse brush to exfoliate the rough areas of Kudak's lower back, trailing down to the powerful mounds of his thick haunches. The moment the brush met his scaly buttocks, Kudak shuddered. The humming sound deepened, his massive fingers flexing and clenching against the stone ledge. By the time Kincaid poured the final rinse over Kudak's body, the warlord lay completely slack and limp, his mammoth body draped over the ledge, his breaths deep and even. The aggression and savagery that once radiated from him had been subdued, replaced with a kind of reverence for the human in his service. Flustered, the Galactic Alliance Grand Speaker turned up the cooling system within his gravity-stabilizing suit. He then eagerly made notations upon his hollow tablet for the historical record. As Warlord Kudak stood up from the ledge, Kincaid smiled and raised an eyebrow to the warlord. For his part, Warlord Kudak slightly bowed his immense frame and apologized, as he attempted to hide his obvious arousal. From behind, a deep, gravelly voice rumbled. "Earth Commando, I must ask, might you offer your skills to us as well?" Kincaid turned to see one of the High Admirals, a behemoth of a Xeondraxian, his bony plates twitching in discomfort, his eyes betraying a cautious plea. Then another spoke. "And I as well. I have suffered these parasites for cycles." One by one, the three hulking admirals of Xeondrax, once the terror of human military forces, now approached with hesitant reverence, their dominant, violent personas, muted by the prospect of relief at the hands of one of Earth's elite warriors. Kincaid allowed himself a smirk of appreciation. He reached for another brush with his left hand, and with his right hand he firmly placed it on the buttocks of the nearest warlord. With a firm grip, he guided him to the stone ledge for his cleansing. Epilogue: The Lasting Bond. After the peace treaty was signed, within 2 cycles, an Earth embassy was established on Xeondrax, an unprecedented gesture of goodwill. The Darkstar Commandos, being the only humans capable of handling the gravity, were deployed as Xeondrax's special ambassadors. The deep cleanings became a sacred diplomatic practice, performed exclusively by the Darkstar Commandos, and the Xeondraxians doted upon their new human allies. At times, the Xeondraxians were even giddy around the Commandos. For their part, the Commandos did not take this act lightly, and had great admiration for the Xeondraxian warlords and soldiers. These were Earth's former sworn enemies, who were now literally exposing their backsides to humans, proving how much they entrusted them in their care. And soon, a new tradition was born. While cleansings regularly took place, the Xeondraxian warlords decided to hold an annual ceremony, honoring those that died at the Battle of Antaeus Prime and the peace treaty that followed decades later. They called the ceremony the Ritual of Deep Cleansing. The Xeondraxians, a battle-hardened empire, became putty in the hands of the Earth's commandos. When the time came for the next annual ceremony, Kincaid and his fellow commandos had a surprise for their new allies. The commandos introduced lavender and coconut oils to the cleansing rituals, and it drove the Xeondraxians wild. For eons, the Xeondraxians' power, domination, and brutality was absolute. Their might was undisputed amongst the galaxy. But beneath their bony plates, in the presence of the right touch from an Earth commando, they emitted a deep hum. The end of Story 3. Please feel free to leave a comment, like, or subscribe. It helps share this story with other science fiction listeners. To view Story 4, The Transporting of Delegate Socox, click the thumbnail on the screen or visit the playlist. Thank you for watching.